ABC, local radio around Australia. It's Friday the 13th. Maybe it's the sort of day that strange things happen. Or do they? There are many sceptics around the paranormal, the supernatural. Captain Underpants, for example, says, how do you become an expert on something that doesn't exist? Interesting point. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Or are we? How can you prove something exists if you don't believe in it? Or how can you, if you really believe in something that doesn't exist, how do you prove that? I'm starting to confuse myself. There are, in fact, you might say Ghostbusters in Australia. There's an all-female paranormal unit. They call themselves Ghostbusters. There's Nicole, there's Stephanie, there's Julie, and there's Peter Banks as well, who is our guest this morning. Peter, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Rod. Happy Friday the 13th.
Is it going to be a happy day, do you think? Is it a day where spookier things happen, or is it just any other normal day?
Well, to me, it's just any other normal day.
Thank goodness for that. I hope the line doesn't drop out strangely. Look, it's very simple, Peter. I mean, as Captain Underpants says, how can you be an expert on something that doesn't exist? How do you deal with the fact that it's quite possible that ghosts don't exist, and a lot of it is our imagination?
Well, that's what being a skeptic is.
And you, in fact, describe yourself as the most sceptical of the group that you're in.
I'm not a skeptic as such, but I'm the most skeptical out of the four of us, yes. Yes.
So
I've had things happen that I can't explain.
Okay, but I suppose just because you can't explain them doesn't mean that there is another supernatural explanation, I suppose, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, let's go back to the very beginning, perhaps. When did you think that maybe there was more to this world than we already know?
I would say my family likes to tell the story, we all had an experience together. So there were four of us at the time. My little sister wasn't born. And my grandmother had died on my father's side. Always seems to be with the grandmothers with me. And she used to live with us. And when she lived with us, my parents had one of those old-fashioned intercoms from her bedroom to their bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And she died, and it had been a couple of years, and Mum was sitting on her bed just going through Nana's papers and everything. And as she's going through it, the intercom starts buzzing.
Mm-hmm.
And
from your grandmother's room?
Yeah, from my grandmother's room. And Mum just automatically assumed it was me or my sister playing on it. And then she looked out into the lounge room, and there we were sitting watching television with my father. So Mum is also a skeptic, just thought it was a bit weird, got up, pulled the unit off the back of the wall, no batteries, and then went to the cord, and the cord that was in between both of the intercoms was also broken because it hadn't been used in years. So Mum likes to tell that story.
So hang on, what you had there was an unexplained buzzing on the intercom?
Yes.
Did you ever get anyone in to look at it and try and work out what happened?
No, Mum just said, okay, that was weird, and then dismissed it and just basically tells the story whenever anyone asks about me in the paranormal. She'll say, oh, well, when she was a kid.
So can I ask you quite seriously, do you honestly believe that was your grandmother trying to contact you?
I don't know, Rod.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd love to believe it was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It is just very coincidental. Very coincidental, but I can't say for sure.
Okay. Has she ever tried to contact you again?
No. That was, well, not that I'm aware of, unless I ignored the signs.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, that's one thing. What else? Tell me other occasions.
I'll tell you about my other grandmother.
Yeah.
This one is really freaky, and we can't explain this one either. And again, it happened with the whole family. She died in 2009, and we'd just left the church from her funeral, and we're on the way to the cemetery, and we're sitting in the car waiting to leave, and my sister's mobile phone starts ringing, and when she took it out, it said, Nana home on the phone.
So your grandmother's home phone number?
Yes, the home phone number. And this is the sister who lived in Germany. So she came over for the funeral. and we all got to say goodbye to Nana.
Oh, come on.
I know. It still gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
And so there's also the other side of that, which is your grandmother is sending you a message saying she's home. Nana home.
Possibly.
Right, it's pretty weird. I mean, again, was anyone at her home making that phone?
Everyone was at the funeral. Every single person was at the funeral.
Now, at this point, do you start thinking, hang on, something's going on here, I want to know more about it?
I do. And this is what really, that episode in 2009 was what really pushed me to explore more. Because, little things had happened all my life. And
Right.
like I had an experience when I was overseas as well with my partner. But that in 2000, and more things happened when that grandmother died as well, more weird things. That was just the weirdest.
Yeah.
And that's what really made me say, okay, I want to explore this.
Okay. Well, they're two things that might have some explanation, I suppose. Who knows? I mean, I don't know them, you don't know them, and other people you've spoken to don't know them. Have there been other occasions that have truly not only worried you, but truly possibly freaked you out?
Yes. In the time that I've been doing paranormal investigations, so much has happened. But as you say, every single thing, as unrealistic as it might seem, there could have been an explanation.
Sure.
But there was one time...
Right. At band camp. Yeah.
This was only in January this year.
Right. So only a couple of months ago.
Yeah. We're at a building in Liverpool. I can't say the name of it because we don't have permission to actually talk about it.
But you call it Shiverpool because it's so scary.
That's right. And it was actually a convict-built building.
Okay.
And underneath in the basement, they have these cells that I don't know what they used to do with them, but they're obviously...
Flog them to death, probably.
Yeah, possibly. They were probably 1 metre by 1 metre cells with big, heavy doors.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided that we were going to go into one of them and there was only 4 of us at the venue. So we're in this cell and we're sitting around a little table. And we had a torch on and everything, and we're all just sitting there, and we were doing what's called an EVP session, which is electronic voice phenomenon. It's when you pick up spirit voices.
Right.
And as we're sitting there on the table, there were these 2 really loud knocks, and the table vibrated. Yeah.
Just like that.
Except only 2 of them.
Yeah.
And the whole table vibrated, and all of us were just sitting there with our hands on our chin at the time. Yeah. And I know it doesn't sound like much at all, but of all the stuff that I've gone through, there was just absolutely no explanation for it.
So no one else around but you?
Nobody else around but us, to the point we were actually locked into this venue by a security guard.
It wasn't the security guard having a bit of fun?
And even if it was,
yeah,
we were down in a basement. So he couldn't, the table vibrated. It was on the table.
Mm-hmm. So let's get to some, explanation questions then, perhaps, because this is what people want to know. This is what I want to know is if ghosts are there, and I don't know, I honestly have a tremendously open mind about it because there are too many stories like this to completely dismiss.
I agree.
And yet, there's no truly irrefutable evidence that says this is them, this is what they do, because sometimes they're dressed in old-fashioned clothes. It's always old-fashioned clothes. It's no one from like last week perhaps dressed up. And you hear knocking on the doors and knocking on tables. And yet ghosts never, if they truly wanted to make contact with us, it's easy to do. Why don't they do it?
Is it easy to do?
Well, maybe maybe it's not easy for the ghosts. I don't know.
This is the question. They say, and this is all theory, but they say that it uses a lot of energy for a spirit to make any kind of sound. So the theory being that if they actually, the amount of energy they would need to use to visually appear in front of you might wipe them from existence. I don't know. That's just my metaphor. But apparently it's not easy for them to cross over.
And yet there are some ghosts that do it all the time, apparently. Apparently.
Not that I've ever met them. I'm with you, Rod. I want them to come and show themselves to me.
It's like UFOs as well, isn't it? Have you had any UFO experiences?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't.
Okay.
I'd like to, but no.
All right. Peter Banks is our guest. She is all self-described Ghostbuster. We'll take your calls if you've got any thoughts on this, or maybe you've got any experiences of your own. 1300 800 222. You can text us as well on 0467 922 702. But that number is 1300 800 222. You mentioned that place in Liverpool. Are there other places? I mean, are there other places where there seems to be more ghost activity than not? And if that's the case, what's the explanation there?
Okay, the one place that we've found a lot of activity, and it's nothing like you don't see, actually people have seen places, is the Casula Powerhouse. It's an art centre that's in the Liverpool area as well. And it's not that old. It was only built in 1950.
Right.
But the explanation behind the reason it's so active is because it was such a high energy workplace. It was a coal facility. So people were working really hard, blood, sweat and tears basically into this energy, electricity place. And there were quite a few tragic deaths in the building. So that's one place that anyone can visit at any time. Then there's like the quarantine station, which is quite well known for its ghost tours.
This is in Manly. Now, I've got to say, quite a few people I know have been on those ghost tours and have never experienced anything.
Well, neither did I when I went on it.
And I know in Canberra at the Film and Sound Archive, formerly the Institute of Anatomy, people say, oh, that's haunted, and people have said, oh, yes, they've seen things. But you go on tours there at night, and I've done that, and of course nothing ever happens.
Yeah, they're not on display, are they?
Yeah, and this is the thing that drives me mad.
Yeah, I have the way that I put it is I want them to appear in front of me so they'll give me back my faith. Like, I remember before I started doing the investigations, I was a total believer. I was brought up from an Irish Catholic background, so quite superstitious. Yeah. And I was a total believer.
So hang on, believer in?
In the paranormal.
Right, okay. And so since you've been a quote-unquote Ghostbuster...
that's when I've become more sceptical.
So you believed it until you started investigating, and then...
Then I start to question.
Okay, so, but it's like, I had to go back to UFOs, or it could be like God as well, for those who believe or don't believe there. The existence of one of these things would surely prove the existence of all of them, in the sense that if one exists, then that's it. We now have that evidence, don't we? There can't be just one ghost in the world.
That's right. It'd be very popular, very busy.
Yes. Yeah. So if that's the case...
Yeah. And with UFOs, I think we'd be pretty arrogant to think that there's not more intelligent life out there.
I agree, but at the same time, it would be very arrogant to think that they're coming all the way across the universe to visit us.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
So, and that's the thing with ghosts as well. Why do they come back? What is the purpose of a haunting? If you're trying to scare someone, well, maybe that happens. If you're trying to make your presence felt, why not do it during the middle of the day? Do ghosts appear during the day? Is it only at night?
They do, actually.
Okay.
They do, yeah. The only reason the whole nighttime thing happened is because it's more of the atmosphere. But there's just as many reports during the day as there is at nighttime. Okay.
We never hear those, though.
Well, actually, we've got a video of one thing that happened during the day. It was actually at one of our investigators' house.
Oh.
Her house was haunted.
Okay.
And she was just getting dressed in the morning, and she knew that funny things were going on. She kept walking into her bedroom, and her drawer was opening, the bottom drawer of her bedside table.
Yeah. What, opening while she saw it?
She was gone. While she was gone.
Why doesn't it ever happen while you're there watching it?
Well, she recorded it.
And?
And it opened on the recording. Mind
you, I've got a kitchen door that won't close, so, you know.
Yeah, well, exactly. It was a pretty new bedside table, and it had that lip at the back that clipped in. Yeah. When she'd close it. Uh-huh. So she would come in and she would close it, and then she'd go out and make a coffee and come back, and the drawer would be open again. So she set her telephone up, her mobile up, and recorded it. The only problem is she didn't get the bottom of the drawer in the shot. So if a skeptic was looking at it, they would say that a string was pulling it or something.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we can't really use it, but that was in the morning.
Okay. Why are old jails so spooky, says Jumbi? Is this the tortured soul theory?
I think it might be.
Here's something else spooky. Greg the truckie says, I said band camp at exactly the same time you did. How weird's